Okay, I think we can start over. We had some network issues. So, hi, David, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be
We
here.
are so glad to finally have you on here with us. So, actually, your name, David Fox,
Mhm.
it really got me confused the first time I
I
heard it.
know.
So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Um, David Fox came as a pen name because this was a favorite character of mine. I was writing a blog. It's a literature blog where we were writing about new books that were coming out, and there was this character I really liked. His name was David, and that's why I decided to take it as my first name. And he was the one with the bright red hair. His last name was different, however, but I decided to take it as my last name because I really, really liked it. So it's kind of dedicated to all the characters I've liked. It's like a combination of all the things I've read and liked in characters because um, this is, I think, what catches us in the story. It's the characters. The plot is also important, however, but I always read the story
But
because
it is a very intriguing pen name.
first because it's a man's name, maybe.
Maybe.
I know it's
So,
surprising.
the title of, oh, sorry, yeah, what were you
No,
saying?
I was saying it's a bit surprising because I've had meetings and where I'm invited as David Fox, and when they see I'm a woman, some people react and they're surprised that it's me, but they still call me this way, so it's okay.
Okay. And the title of the book, Grey Days, I think that's just as, intriguing. So can you tell us a little about that?
Thank you. Gray days, I chose the color gray because gray is the mixture between black and white. It's always somewhere in between the spaces. Nothing in life is only black or white. So I've always associated the gray color with something in between. And because the story follows four characters and each one of them has to take a decision. I decided to dedicate somehow the color to their decisions because when you take a decision, you never know whether this is the right one or the wrong one. Uh, Also, one of the main characters is with gray eyes. It's a reference to the romance thread and line. So this is why I decided to call it Gray Days.
Okay, and now coming to the characters, there are quite a few characters. There's Kyle,
Mhm,
Jeremy, Ava, Nathan. So what was your
mhm,
process like building these characters? I know the book deals with mental health. So what was
mhm,
your approach with these characters?
mhm. I decided to take different points of view. We have four characters, and they're almost the same age, and they're approaching their early 20s. And I've always considered this period of time one of the most important in human's life because this is when most of the things happen to you for the first time. It's the first disappointment, it could be the first falling in love for real this time. So, as you mentioned, because it deals with mental health, two of the main characters are part of the same family. And I wanted to explore how, no matter whether you come from one and the same family, you have different ways of dealing with your reality and what's happening to you. So I decided to write from the four points of view because I wanted to explore the story differently because we may go through similar things, but it's never the same for each one of us. All of us process things differently. No one feels the same thing twice, and no one feels the same way as someone. One of my favorite quotes from a book is saying that you can never know what someone is feeling until you walk into his skin and you walk around his shoes.
That's
So,
a lovely quote.
thank
And
you.
like the book is a YA book which deals with friendship, love, and various other choices of a
Mhm,
young adult, essentially. So,
mhm.
can you tell me how important was that for you to portray that correctly? Because I know a lot of people have it very stereotyped. So, and I like
No.
your approach in this book. So,
Oh, thank you.
so can
Thank
you
you.
tell us a little about that?
I'm really glad. I decided really to take some of the characters are very stereotypical at first. I wanted to have characters which are the perfect stereotype. For example, the guy everyone likes at school, the girl who likes the popular guy, and I really wanted to bend this and change it
Yeah,
because
you played on those stereotypes itself. So,
thank you. Uh, And because it was very important to me to break the stereotypes. I know stereotypes are sometimes there for a reason, but I don't think in life things happen this way. So I was aiming for as reliable and correct representation as possible. I always aim this when I write. I'm trying to make the characters as diverse as possible because in real life nothing is like this, one dimensional. So it was, for me, it was important to portray them as correctly as possible. Although correctly is also subjective, but still, I didn't want them to be only this or only
Yeah,
that
that's them.
because no one is in real life. And I think our job as writers and people who work with fiction is to challenge the norms, to challenge the stereotypes. Because if we don't challenge them, we can never have a real representation or honest representation.
True.
And I think this is more sometimes helpful to people to relate to the characters. Because I remember when I started writing it, I was posting it online. And most of the comments, especially on the chapters that are dealing more about anxiety, um, most of the comments were how they referred to the character. They were said like, "Oh, I know what this feels like. Oh, that's what I thought the other day." So for me, it was more important to touch the people through the characters.
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna like continue along that line. You said like mental health is subjective from person to person. Everyone has a different experience. So were you very cautious while writing that so that you portray it and don't stray away too far from it? I know
Yes,
it's
this
scary
was.
to write that.
It's very scary. It's very scary actually because, um, by the way, it was like this constant loop of uncertainty whether I'm doing it the right way, especially in the beginning, because it's um, it's very challenging. I did a lot of research on the topics. I spoke to people who have gone through this. I myself have had moments where I felt anxious. I think all of us felt anxious, but having anxiety in a more serious stage is different, and it required a lot of research and speaking to people who have gone through this. So I was trying to make it as correct as possible. But as I said, I know it's subjective to each one of us, and it can never be 100% covering in the same as in the book. But at least if I manage to make at least one person go, "Oh, hey, I've actually been through this," I think that would be the real success for me. The more you make people relate to the story, the more successful it's
The
always
more
like
they're gonna love it. True.
that.
So do you think there's still a lot of stigma around mental health? Because I know a lot of people are talking about it, but what do you think about that?
Honestly, I think we're trying to break the stigma and we're trying to escape this because there are more and more talks about this more openly. However, I still think people sometimes feel uncomfortable starting the topic. For example, in my personal life, I notice people wait for you to start first talking about this, and if they feel comfortable and safe, create this safe space for them to talk about it, then they start sharing. I mean, people don't still feel like there is this stigma around openly saying that I don't feel well. I think I need something about it. I hope the dialogue changes, and I hope it becomes a topic to speak about more openly. This is at least from my experience, and this is why I wanted to write the book the way I did. And it's
I think we're getting there with this discussion, but it's a slow process.
I think so too.
Again, there's a lot of misrepresentation and myth around mental health issues. So like these characters, I've read a lot of these books, and often I see people like they try to start a discussion on it, but unintentionally they end up romanticizing it, and people it's like this trend. So how did you approach that? Like, did
Thank
you
you
try
for
to
this.
like stay away from it completely?
Mhm.
Because I
Thank,
know a lot of people do it unintentionally.
mhm, mhm. Sometimes intentionally, maybe.
Sometimes,
Uh, I know, I know. Of course, it's the creative choice. Of course, this
yeah.
is. Thank you for bringing this up. I had a very interesting conversation with another friend of mine who is a writer, and this is what we were talking about. That there is this. I don't know if it's a trend, but it happens. I know it could be unintentional or it could be not. Again, this is a creative choice, but there is this romanticizing the health issues. I don't like to say problems because problem is a very strong word. But
Yeah.
whenever there is a character with in a situation where their mental health is not the most stable one, it becomes their romantic point of attraction. This is the reason why someone
I
falls for them.
yeah.
It sometimes works, I know. However, in real life, I dare to say that that's not really the case. And it could be the reason why some things don't happen the way the person wants them to happen because this is an issue that stops them from acting the way they want it. In Grey Days, I tried to explore it differently, and the mental health issues that some of the characters have are actually the reason why they sometimes fail to form relationships or to be their best self. So it's not. This is not the basis of forming the romantic relationship. It's actually the thing that stops them from forming it. And
Yeah.
the
That's
journey they
that's more realistic.
at least it was for me. I know we read fiction to escape reality. However, I didn't want to continue the trend
Yeah.
of making a romantic story something which is not something which is actually very often the reason why a person cannot feel happy in real life. Um, it doesn't end on the dark side. The characters find their way towards each other. But what I wanted to explore more was finding your way towards your own self. Because if you don't have the longest relationship you're ever going to have is the one you have with yourself. And if this relationship is not what you want it to be, I think it's sometimes difficult to form it properly with other people. This is what happens to one of the characters, while the other characters goes differently, and actually the person who is by his side is the reason why he feels more empowered to fight his demons. That's why I had two mirroring uh, relationships, and I tried to both blend them in and put them on the polar opposites. I hope I've done it successfully.
So at what point did you decide you want to write a book like this? Like, was it always intended to have this theme, or did it happen gradually?
The topic was something I've always wanted to write about because I used to work with teenagers. Teenagers, I mean, people at the age of between 17 and some of them were 20. It was years back, but I think this was the time when I decided this is the story I want to tell because of all the things at some point they started sharing with me and I was seeing happening. So in that sense, they were my inspiration because what they often said was they don't feel comfortable speaking about how they feel because they were afraid that someone would laugh or would not understand. It's of course very difficult to
That's
relate.
always a fear somewhere deep down.
I think so too. There is always this fear of speaking what's in your mind. But even taking the step towards the dialogue is, I think, a good way to start speaking more about it. It's it was recently by the way, the mental health month here in Europe, and what I noticed was people still didn't really speak about this, even grown people, even people who are my age. I think
But I think that it can't be locked down to a certain age demographic. I think everyone at some point
mhm,
on some level has something that they need to deal with.
I think so too. Yes, I think so too. What's important is
So
to find the right ways to fight with it and to deal
true. So what did you enjoy the most about writing this book?
about writing it. It was it's from we have four main characters. However, it's told from the perspective of three of them. It was also intentional because one of them remains student. The stereotypical misunderstood character also with it, of course. But I mostly enjoyed playing with the different perspectives and getting into the shoes of the three of them because the three of them are so different. and they're all four so different. The way we all are different. We have similarities between each other, but essentially we have differences and things, small things in ourselves that always remain hidden. So it was, yeah, it was fun exploring the characters, because the more you write your characters, the more often you speak to them, and the more they tell you about them. Yes. You
True.
start getting to know them. Yes. One of them remained very difficult till the end. So
And which one was that?
this was Nathan, because he's the character I never wrote from. I never wrote from his perspective, and it was again intentional, because until the end he remained a character that felt like no one understood him and
Okay.
didn't belong there. And he wasn't trying to change it, because he actually liked it. He wanted to be in the shoes
Okay.
of the special one until the end. How they.
Okay, that's also a lovely representation.
Thank you, thank you. But
So,
he was difficult.
so what? Sorry. So, just a second. Are you working on anything else at the moment?
I am. I am. I recently finished I took part in your project, Abacus, and I really enjoyed writing it, because history is one of my most favorite topics to write. And I decided to turn this into something bigger. So I'm currently writing California. It's a historical and it's going to be fantasy. However, of course, I'm going to work mostly on building the characters the way I imagined them. So I'm hoping to be done soon. Uh, the writing fantasy is very different from what Grey Daze is, because Grey Daze is contemporary. Uh, but the good thing about fantasy is you have all the creative freedom in the world.
True. True. I think with
Uh,
grade A's, it was always being cautious about
yes,
not offending
just
anyone, also.
that's true. That's also, especially when you work with sensitive topics. You're never, as I said,
Yeah.
it's this constant loop of treading on very thin ice, because you can do very well. And I'm sure at the first draft when I did it, I had made some mistakes, especially when I started talking more and more to people. I realized that some things were not the way they were actually in real life, and I was filling in the gaps with just made up things, things that never happened. For example, with someone who is going through a panic attack, for example, or something like this. So I had to go back and change it and make it as reliable as possible. With fantasy, when you build the world, you don't have those constraints, and you can basically work with all the with.
True.
Of course, the characters have to feel real, but in terms of
Yeah.
setting, it's easier, and
There's a lot more freedom with that.
you have a lot more freedom. Yes.
Yeah. And with grade A's, once the book was released, did you have your readers come back and tell you that they related to it, or one of the
I
characters?
I received my first message that said, "I can't believe you did this to me." So I think this was yeah. This is because we started talking more with the person who sent me the message, that they really liked the female character, and her story ends. I tried to break again the way things end usually, and I'm actually very happy. And thanks to you and Ukiyoto for letting me complete the book the way I wanted, and you gave me the creative freedom to finish it the way I want to. It's not the usual happy ending. It's a bit bittersweet one, and I think this is why she said, "I can't believe you did this to me." But I had another reader. There is a chapter in the book that describes what the character goes through during a panic attack, and I had a few of my readers send me messages that they they can very well relate to what was described in the book, and it was I think I felt great because it meant that probably I've done my job well. As I said, if I made at least a few people relate to what was going on, that would be uh, my success.
True.
Yeah.
But I think it was very well portrayed. And this is my last question for you. So, do you have any final messages before we sign out for the young readers or just youngsters in general or anyone in general?
Anyone in general, my message would be take care of yourself. Uh, try to to pay attention and listen to yourself because your voice is the loudest, and if it's the loudest for you, other people will hear it as well. Just don't be afraid of being loud. This is what I've
That's a
always
lovely
this is
message,
what I
David.
thank you. This is what I tell my students, the people I work with, because they're young students in their early 20s. Uh, don't be afraid to express yourself because we live in a time where you can. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something because if you believe it, then people will also believe. People see you the way you see yourself.
Yeah,
So I try to make them believe more in
true.
themselves and not to be afraid of their feelings because being afraid of your feelings is what stops you from actually feeling life. And life is all about having feelings and experiencing life.
True.
So yeah,
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for giving
thank
us your
you.
time and being here with us. I thoroughly
Thank
enjoyed talking
you.
to you.
Me too. Thank you for working with me, and thank you for helping me through all the process.
And
You
you
were the
were
publisher.
signing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure working with you, and we are looking forward to working with you in the future as well.
Me too. You were the Ukiyoto, and you were very successful throughout all the edits and everything, all the process. So it was a great pleasure working
Thank
with you, and I'm
you.
looking forward to showing you the next
Thank.
story.
We're looking forward to that too.
Thank you.
Anyway, guys, for all of y'all watching back home, David's book link will be in the description box below, so y'all can purchase it. And that's it for today, guys. Bye. Bye, David.
Bye.